This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday evening. Yes, not Sunday morning. It's daylight savings time, so I find myself with an extra hour's worth of wakeful energy. So I thought, well, I'm bored. So why not listen to a panel discussion about the current state of DEI from the League of Women Voters? I'm telling you guys, it's enthralling stuff, I'm sure. We'll find out together. I will promise, though, it's an hour and a half long live stream or something they did. The first 10 minutes is, or the first like 7 minutes is just nothing but a title card. And then from then until 22 minutes, it's a couple of ladies talking and one of them reading a poem that she wrote about stuff. There might have been a land acknowledgement in there, I don't know. But I skipped over all of that to get straight to the panel discussion part. At least, I think it is. I don't know what happens after this point that we've gotten to, but we'll find out together. Anyway, who's joining me for this totally unplanned, unscheduled ambush Sunday stream? Kiro Soldier, good evening. Unfair Ophelia, hello. The Luke Skywalker, too, hello. I'm probably going to have to sleep soon, but if I do pass out, I'll watch this later. Okay, well, maybe I'll help you pass out. It could be. I could be an opiate for the masses. Draco Rincewind, good evening. Random American, good evening. I'm also watching Satsu's game stream. Oh. I didn't mean to step on anybody's toes. Sorry, Satsu. I'll play his ad. I'll make up for it. I will apologize by playing his ad here. Angelverse, good evening. Daryl Odell, hello. And Robert Pincus, good evening. Yes, and anybody else who's lurking or in the future, as you may be. Yeah, this is just... I'm bored on a Sunday night. I'm not going to get to sleep anytime soon because of the time change, and I did sleep in this morning, so I'm kind of wired. And so I just thought... I also just got done watching, or finishing the current season of The Diplomat on Netflix. I should do a stream just ranting about that show for a little bit, but... I talked about it somewhere else too, I forget. I think it was with Undoomed or something, but man, it's like you give that show 2 seasons and it's like, okay, it kind of holds my interest. I can kind of look past all the girl bossing because the writing is okay and the acting is great and the chemistry between the characters is really good and the actors. And then you get to season 3 and it's like, all of you people belong in federal prison. Given the storyline that they have set up, our main characters, our protagonists, and especially our main protagonist, they all belong in federal prison for conspiracy to commit treason and war crimes. There's no doubt about it. They should. And so watching them dither and whine and go back and forth for a whole 3rd season about all this other stuff, and I'm thinking, I don't care about any of you anymore. None of you even have... I mean, even if I accept the fact that, politics is a gray area of morality and this, that, and the other... You guys are provably part of a conspiracy to cover up a war crime. I mean, you were innocent of anything up until the end of season 2. And then you decided to go all in with the person who committed a war crime. Yeah, it just doesn't quite work. It's really hard to build up any empathy or care for characters that aren't like, understandably anti-heroes or something. There's nothing heroic about it. It's just... Anyway, so I got through season 3 and I get to the end of season 3 and I'm like, I'm morbidly curious to know how they wrap this up in apparently the final season coming up next year sometime. But other than that, it feels like bad writing. They wrote themselves into a corner and then tried to justify it and it just doesn't work. Anyway. Right, American. War crimes, are they Canadian? No, they're American, although most of the show takes place in Britain. I'm assuming tax breaks or something. But anyway, That's neither hide nor hair, near or far, relevant or otherwise. This is what we're here for. This is the League of Women Voters. Is D.E.I. a thing of the past? That's what they want to know. One can only hope, but I doubt it. So, what's the show called? It's called The Diplomat on Netflix. It's now just finished up its 3rd season. The cast is great. I mean, this is the thing, is that there is so much girl bossing in this show, and there's so much male. It's the usual routine, right? Every male character is either a creep, a simp, or an absolute villain. There's really, or they vary in those 3 statuses throughout the course of their character arcs or whatever. And all the women are like, so it's very, but that element of it was tolerable for me only because for the first 2 seasons, the writing and especially the chemistry between the actors and the characters and everything, and the intrigue and the twists and the turns, it all kept me interested. I was relatively enmeshed for the first 2 seasons. And then, beginning of the 3rd season, they decide to say, hey, you know how we established these 2 main characters as brilliant political animals who are willing to game out contingencies on different decisions and different possibilities before they talk to somebody or assume someone's position on a political issue or something? Yeah. That just disappeared. Disappeared for the one most significant decision that they made. Because if they made the correct decision, necessarily they would have to exit the storyline. So in order to maintain the characters' presence in the storyline, they had to make them absolutely short-sighted idiots. And then afterwards pretend like nothing happened. So anyway, I could go on, but that's a whole other stream. Suzanne a la Richard, good evening. And Asan, good evening to you. Anyway, that's all fluff. And maybe also stalling for time in case other people wanted to show up because this was unplanned. I apologize. But anyway, this is the League of Women Voters. This is them having a panel discussion. I've skipped the first 22 minutes because it was nothing but fluff and poetry readings and God knows what else. So now, purportedly, we're getting into the actual panel discussion. If this turns into long self-introductions of individuals, I might skip around a bit. But we'll find out as we go. Seftus Wolf, good evening. Okay, enough preamble. Let's get into it.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, so we're just going to dive in and have this
Thank God.
conversation. I would like to start and kind of set the stage with, any one of you in your own words.
Don't say any one of you. Tip for panel moderators or discussion moderators of the future. Zero in on who's going to speak next. Keep it structured. Do not have it be chaotic. Start at the end of the line or at the beginning of the line or alphabetically, whatever. Because if you just say any one of you, then everybody's going to be like super polite and wait for somebody else to speak or whatever. No, just, you're the moderator. Moderate. I hate it when they do that.
Define DE&I not as a policy, but actually as a practice.
Define DEI not as a policy, but as a practice. Okay.
Anyway.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Do not open up the floor. Just point to somebody and say, go. And then everybody takes a turn.
One can start.
See, it's exactly what I'm talking about. Just pick somebody.
There we go.
Oh my God, starting at the beginning of the line. What a crazy idea. And then they'll probably hand it down the way they go. I did this once a long time ago. I hosted a discussion on my channel, and it was a lot of people. And so I told everybody at the front that I'm going to go around one by one to make sure there wasn't any crosstalk and everybody got their time in. And they all got it immediately and understood. And so it was amazing. I didn't have to tell them. As the stream started, the first person spoke and everybody else muted their microphones. And then once they'd answered or given their answer to the question, moved on, it was all very structured. It was all very sane.
I think the first word that kind of comes to mind in practice for me is opportunity.
To do what?
I see it as when we think about DE&I and think about opportunities that are for everybody.
Well, you may think that way, but how it's actually manifested in practice and policy, that's not what it's for. It's not for everybody. It's for those demographics DEI has chosen as the inherent victims that need a hand up because they obviously cannot help themselves.
Opportunities of, access to, as a lawyer, I think about access to the justice system.
Oh, you're a lawyer. I'd love to know what she thinks about the affirmative action decision, what she thinks about some of the cases going forward or have already gone forward in regards to DEI and the colleges and elsewise.
Think about access for people to have lawyers. I think about the opportunity for people to have representation.
Are you talking about illegal immigrants? I got some notion that you're talking about illegal immigrants.
And in whatever it may be, just allowing and providing equal opportunity for people.
It's about equality of outcome, not equal opportunity.
Anyone else? Opportunity.
Uh-huh. Just go down the line. Just go down the line.
Hello.
See?
Thank you all for having me. And I would like to say that I'm here in my personal capacity.
So you're not here as a professional of some kind? I have no idea who our speakers are. I'm not sure. If they gave introductions, I skipped over it. So is it one of those things where it's like, anything I say should not be taken as a statement of the organization I otherwise am attached to?
One thing that I would like to say, from my legal mind.
Oh, we got lawyers here. Okay.
Is that I think that there are so many areas of the law that are diversity, equity, and inclusion. We just don't call it that.
What do we call it?
The greatest one that we use as lawyers.
If you cite the Civil Rights Act of 1964 as an example of DEI, I am going to laugh. I'm going to laugh mightily.
Is the Equal Protection Clause, and there's an Equal Protection Clause in the United States Constitution.
Yes, the 14th Amendment. And how did that come up recently, relatively recently, in the affirmative action case?
And there's an Equal Protection Clause in the Ohio Constitution.
Yeah, and the Equal Protection Clause just says the laws as written have to be enforced fairly. And you're... Okay. I'd love to know, how are you extrapolating that as a representation or a defense of DEI?
And both of those are great tools to achieve diversity, equity, and inclusion.
How?
In my opinion.
Well, okay, in your legal opinion, in what way?
And then we also can't forget that diversity, equity, inclusion is written into some of our laws.
Where?
That is what the American with Disabilities Act is.
The Americans with Disabilities Act is not DEI. You guys have done your best to try to shoehorn a pre-existing realistic assessment of people's access to buildings and jobs as part of DEI. But that's not what DEI is. DEI is about pushing forward a demographic guilt trip by focusing on representation without demonstration of merit. That's not the same thing. Okay, you don't get to co-opt something and say, oh, no. Give an example of how the 14th Amendment and DEI are connected. A legal example. And if it's written into our laws, where is the American Disabilities Act or the subsection thereof that says that your skin color is a disability? Where is the section of the Americans with Disabilities Act that lists gender as a disability? I mean, if you can quote that, by all means. Because race and gender are the top elements that DEI serves, not disability. You guys want to think of yourselves as moral pioneers on the level of something like the Americans with Disabilities Act, but it's not. You're not.
And the Americans with Disabilities Act is going to impact how a building is constructed from the ground up.
What does that have to do with race? What does that have to do with gender?
You know, and include certain practices that employers have to follow.
What does that have to do with race? What does that have to do with gender?
So I think that when I think of diversity, when I think of, no one's ever accused me of being quiet, Dr. Lev Benton, but okay.
What?
Hopefully most of you heard what I said.
Well, I know I did.
But there was. You know what? It was so brilliant. I'm going to stop there.
And you're somewhere in the legal profession, that's your argument. We have this thing called the Equal Protection Clause. The Americans with Disabilities Act. Therefore, DEI is good. Really? Are you gonna simp for the next woman in the line and not just go in order? Anytime now.
There we go. Okay, now it's on. I have to build on that, obviously, because you
Obviously.
mentioned the Americans with Disabilities Act, and
The Americans with Disabilities Act. You know, bringing up the American with Disabilities Act or people with disabilities, physical disabilities or such, it's almost on par with making passing reference to veterans when DEI consultants and experts start talking, as though veterans, people who actually have demonstrated merit, have given service and sacrifice, that their situation is on equitable footing with someone's race or gender. That someone with a physical disability they have no control over is the same thing or should be considered similar to skin color and gender? They don't seem to understand what a disservice they're doing to their own argument, let alone the benevolent condescension they're expressing towards the people that DEI actually attempts to serve. But whatever.
I was going to say, when I think of it in practice, I think about access.
Access. Not diversity, not equity, not inclusion, not belonging. Access. Yes. A ramp, a wheelchair ramp is DEI, everybody.
And it's, access is sometimes it can be universal, right? There are many things that were required by the ADA that actually improve things for all of us. Think of the door buttons. How many of us have benefited from that, or curb cuts?
Lady, I hate to tell you this. I have looked at countless diversity reports from major companies and organizations over the last 9 years, and nary a one of them calculates their success or progress in their DEI initiatives with a graph that shows how many ramps or buttons they have installed. It's demographics, racial, gender, sometimes sexual orientation. Never ramps and buttons. But if you're going to do that, then tell me, what is the policy equivalent of a ramp for someone based on their skin color, based on their gender, when it comes to access to employment or opportunity? This is such a this is a cowardly escape hatch to the entire subject. leaning on the Americans with Disabilities Act.
But access can also be very individualized.
Oh,
So
yeah.
whether that's an education or an employment, and that's where the concept of equity in particular comes into play. As
How? How does it manifest? Down in the trenches, as a matter of function, how does equity manifest for people who are not covered by the ADA?
part of what that law requires, but it is unique in a way that it requires not just equality, but it requires that individual sort of bridging the gap between maybe where the world is right now and what that person might need.
I know I'm not going to get an answer, but example. In what way?
And that, I think, is what we need to do more of, and not just in the area where the law requires it, like under the ADA.
Such as?
Absolutely. And so I hear opportunity. I
Do the men get to speak?
hear access. I hear individualized support and care.
Yeah.
And that sounds like something that we all should have.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. You know, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Obviously, it sounds great.
Right?
Oh, right? Oh, sorry. If she's going to say right, then I have to...
Right?
Yeah. Oh, one more time for those in the cheap seats.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, right? Right. It all sounds great. Access, equity, opportunity. Wow. Why do we call it access, equity, and opportunity? We can call it AO. AO. AEO instead of DEI.
So my next question.
No. What? Do the men not get a chance to answer? You skip over? I understand this is the League of Women Voters, but are these guys they're just props, aren't they?
Then is, why do you believe it's become a focal point for both advocacy and black backlash?
Was that a Freudian slip? Advocacy and backlash.
In today's climate, if we need it, why is there a problem?
Let the guys talk. Let the guys talk.
Mike,
Guys? Yeah. Oh, finally.
So, as the recovering lawyer on the panel,
Uh-huh.
I'll weigh in first in the original question. And
Yeah, you take a moment to answer the question that she should have had you answer before, because you're also a part of the panel and you were just skipped over.
answer that one. To me, DEI is a process.
Mm-hmm. It is.
DEI is what has been necessary to get closer to what our founding documents would eventually make possible.
Really? You think assessing people on the basis of their race or gender for opportunities is what the founding documents intended? Or as they have evolved in rhetoric and belief over time? Really? Okay, what about if we're going to talk about founding documents when it comes to, equal rights and so on, do you really think that DEI in its process is in tune with the Civil Rights Act of 1964?
And now we're in the backslide.
Why?
Why? Justice Ginsburg, the late Justice Ginsburg, described America as a pendulum, and we're in that swing back that I would suggest started the day after Brown v. Board of Education.
Okay. Do tell.
And
how? What do you mean?
We're in the height of that pushback now that's been accelerated by seizing on a lot of the momentum and energy that built through the progress that was being made in the last decade plus.
No. The last decade plus has not been progress. It has been the backslide. It has been the antithesis of the progress made from 1964 and forward, up through about, the late 90s, early 2000s. This guy is through the looking glass.
And I think that backlash is a discomfort.
Right, yeah, no, you see, really, it's all the racists. All of the racists are the ones that are uncomfortable with the idea of assessing people on the basis of race for opportunity. Right.
with that progress.
Oh, well, you want to be more specific?
And America is not linear, nor is progress. We're in that backslide, and we will push back.
He's saying the correct things, but he's on the opposite or the wrong side of the assessment. Yes, we are on a backslide. We're on a backslide away from the progress. The backslide is not the resistance to DEI. The backslide, as you call it, is the enforcement or the attempted enforcement of the existing civil rights laws against DEI, which is demonstrably violating civil rights laws in practice. And yet somehow you've convinced yourself it's the opposite, which is just remarkable to be true.
And reclaim the ground we've lost.
Oh.
And
How?
take it further.
How?
In that pushback, in my opinion.
How?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep, now
They,
we can.
they gave me the Janet mic, and so I will try to answer. But I'm not going to sing, by the way. You don't want that.
At this point, your singing would probably be a more productive activity than what I'm hearing so far.
But for me, DEI is also opportunity. Like was mentioned earlier, opportunity
Okay.
for all. And I do believe that for me, thinking about all the progress, the kind of leap forward that was made in 2020 around.
The leap forward in 2020. George Floyd?
The George Floyd and
Yes. Society here and around the world really, really leapt forward. The great leap forward in 2020. Yeah, dancing on and profiting off the death of a man as some kind of justification for how corporations hire people. I still haven't had it adequately explained to me what George Floyd dying of a heart attack and drug overdose has to say about the hiring policies at PricewaterhouseCoopers or HP or Amazon or on and on and on and on. I've never had it explained to me, the direct line between those two events or two ways of thinking. I just don't know. But apparently so.
and this idea that racial justice is something we should all be thinking about, be having a conversation about.
Yeah, justice predicated on race. Think about that one for a second.
I definitely agree that there's a longer history of this kind of pendulum swing back, but I think there was a huge pendulum shift right after that moment because I think there's been this perception that.
Oh, and I agree. There was a huge pendulum swing backwards by opportunists and grifters and racists to drag us even further backwards than we'd already been dragged from about 2014, 2015 to that point. Like I say, what they're saying in the correct context is correct, but they've got it backwards.
There's too much opportunity for certain people, which again doesn't make sense.
Wait. There's too much opportunity for certain people. Do tell.
Sense to me when you think about the statistics, because even if as some purport that we get rid of DEI,
Yeah.
The statistical gap
The disparity
is still there. It's
yeah. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. Why is there a disparity? No, seriously, why is there a disparity? How do you explain the disparity? I'm going to have a guess, and I am just guessing here, that our speaker would explain the disparity as racism or sexism, depending on what he's talking about. Let's just say illegal discrimination explains the disparity, not population demographics, not personal choice, but some form of systemic institutional discrimination. And DEI solves for this, apparently. And despite DEI having been, triumphant for the last decade or so, somehow that disparity still exists.
still very real. It's still definitely a fact when it
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. The difference between numbers is a fact. What is its cause?
comes to marginalized communities. And so for me, I think that's where the backlash is really coming from. This idea that there have been too many gains. But again,
Right. It's jealousy. It's racist, sexist jealousy of all the gains that have been made because of DEI. Now, which is why corporation after corporation, organization after organization started shedding their DEI programs starting around about the fall of 2022. And certainly things got hypercharged after Trump made his executive orders.
Where are we what are we measuring these gains against? I think is the real question. And when you really think about it,
what are you measuring these gains against? Well, I would assume you're measuring them against past numbers. Otherwise, how would you know that they are gain? I don't know. You're the DEI expert. What are you measuring these gains against? Past events, I would assume. I could be wrong. But Amy Williams, good evening. I saw somebody else here. I saw someone else here that I have to say hello to. Amada Wolfchild. No, can't let the men talk. This is women time. Well, I mean, it is the League of Women Voters. So they're in charge. But still, the token men have to say something.
There hasn't been, yes, there's been a lot of conversation and it's become a lot more public. But when we look at how the needle has moved, it's only moved a couple inches. It hasn't really moved in this huge way that people, I think, are perceiving.
Quantify that. DEI has been running rampant for at least 10 years. I've been following it for 9 of those last 10 years. And certainly there were things that were going on before, but 2014, 2015 is really when it started bubbling up into mainstream consciousness, diversity programs, and this very overt refutation of civil rights laws and leaning on the concept of affirmative action and racial justice and social justice and so on. So this is what always gets me. You get together a group of people who would comport themselves to be experts on this subject, who in some way, shape, or form, I'm sure one or more of them would claim to be having been involved in this for decades. And yet, given an open forum, in a friendly audience, with no strictures to what they can say or what they can offer, do they give you an example? Do they quote any numbers? Do they explain themselves? No.
Thank you. And so with this backlash,
Blacklash?
how have you all seen the misinformation, which is unintentional?
Okay, so not even going to take a neutral stance on it. It just is information, disinformation. It's misinformation. It's not an opposing viewpoint. It's not a counter argument. It's just obviously lies and deception. Okay. Thank you, Alan Thyler, for the hiya, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie. Wow.
See, it's a Dogcat Fox. Dogcat Fox is very appreciative. So, thank you, Alan. Wowie, wow. Yes. You're a happy boy now, aren't you? Yes. Okay, go back to your place. And stay in your place. I don't have to have a collar on him. He knows where to stay. Now he's wandering off to, I assume, hunt down a Moonite or something. Let's see. Divine Petulance. Scriblight, sometimes thinking hurts. It's true. Or having to explain yourself in detail might open yourself up to criticism or fact-checking. That can also be the case.
Or the disinformation, which is intentional, used to discredit or delegitimize DE&I.
Yeah. No, there's no possibility that the other side might have a point. There's no possibility that we could be wrong. No. Anything that says something contrary to our opinion, It's obviously a lie or a deception.
Within your work. Yes, within your work.
Within your oh my God! Asking for a specific example from your own work experience. Will we get any clear answers?
Well, I'll just comment on something that happened quite a few months ago now, but
Okay, so within the last year. Okay.
when disabled workers were blamed for tragedies, basically. And
Disabled workers were blamed for tragedies. This was misinformation in D.E.I. Okay.
and that was a really unfortunate form, in my opinion, of intentional disinformation,
Specifically what? I mean, a lot of things have happened in the last several months.
not just misinformation,
So,
but it feeds into misinformation that does already exist in the area of disability.
we're not taught. Lady, I tell you what, the D in DEI does not stand for disability. And first off, name the incident that you're talking about. I mean, it's possible that you're not wrong. Maybe someone was blamed for something that they didn't do, or something was blamed on a disability that had nothing to do with it. I could believe that happens. You need to tell us what you're talking about. But secondly, every time you lean on disability, and there are a lot of categories of disability, A, it's irrelevant, and or B, you're equating, again, the two main levers of DEI, and that's race and gender, as being on the same level as disability. So,
Where there is this perception or misunderstanding or stereotype about the ability of people with disabilities, right?
like what? What news story are you talking about? What incident are you speaking of?
Sometimes that stigma associated with mental health. There's lots
Sure.
of disinformation whenever there's any kind of shooting that's
What? I thought she was going to bring up something like air traffic control or like an auto accident or shootings.
backlash against people that have either autism or a serious mental illness.
What? Shootings. You're bringing up an escape hatch of disability in shootings?
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
That's your example. Shootings. As misinformation in regards to disability. I thought you okay, maybe she's got more to say, but her first thought is not something that happened in a work environment or in a professional context, but crimes. Okay. Wes Wolliver, how are you, Scribe? Got here late, so I'm going to the start. And hello, Dogcat Fox. Well, hello, Wes. I'm doing okay. And as far as Dogcat Fox is concerned, Dogcat Fox says,
Wowie wow wow.
Yes, so he's doing fine. And hello to you too. Okay. Would you like to elaborate on which particular horrible incident involving guns you're giving an escape hatch to the perpetrator for their disability?
But then there's also a lot of misinformation about the ability of a person with an intellectual disability or things like that.
I mean, I have to at least give some credit to the moderator. She did ask them for examples from their work. And this lady...
And so when you have something that's so visible, that
Like a shooting?
Really, it reinforces what's already kind of happening at the low level in everyday life, and it makes it harder to push back against that.
So, if someone with a mental illness, as you describe, which I don't even know what you're talking about because you didn't say, goes on a shooting spree, then that puts a stigma onto mental illness. Yes. I- okay. That was that was a terrible answer, and you answered nothing. Do you think anybody on the panel will give a clear answer?
I think in particular with law and law firms right now,
Yeah.
law firms are under attack. And
Why? Or, okay. What is the opposition's claimed justification for, quote unquote, attacking law firms? Could it be, and I'm just throwing this out here, I've never looked at law firms before on this channel, but could it be internship programs or grant programs run through law firms that were filtered on the basis of race or gender in terms of opportunity for access to that money or those grants or those internships?
a lot are giving in to that attack.
Yes, because they've been caught with their pants down and they know they don't have a defense.
And when the disinformation comes in
Like what?
of, quotas of you need to hire this many diverse candidates,
Yes.
or
You said the magic word, quotas. Yes.
and then we get into the issues of, well, but then you're not hiring the most qualified candidates, which is
Well, you can't tell if you are because you've already filtered out certain people on the basis of their race or their gender. So qualifications are secondary at best. Divine Petulance. Oops. Sorry. Oh, Cosgrove. The chat moved, and I was going to click on the thing, but I'll just say, of course, they won't be able to answer any questions. They've outlawed so many words they can't possibly communicate anything descriptive. Well, like I say, if they actually used any active examples, they'd be opening themselves up to fact checking and honest criticism of what they're saying. Oh, I just noticed I didn't have my little. There we go. Extra light on. They hiding specifics is a way to avoid criticism or inquiry. I can't think of another reason why. At least this lady is edging on telling the truth about quotas. Quotas based on racial, gender demographics, which are inherently illegal. But Divine Petulance, thank you so much. Hey Scribbles, I noticed your wrist brace. Have you tried a wireless trackball mouse? I have. It doesn't work for me. I do, it's kind of a safety blanket thing now to try to avoid carpal tunnel, because I've had in most of my work, I am either moving the mouse or typing a lot on the keypad. And so when that sensation of having the edge of the desk pressing up against my wrist and everything that I'm doing, it drives me up the wall. So anytime that I'm doing any computer work now, for the most part, I put this on. I don't have an injury. I'm doing my best to mitigate getting, because I've strained things before in my work, and so it's just kind of a reflexive thing to put this on now. And I've never been comfortable with a trackball or a like one of those. Yeah, it just doesn't. I'm too set in my ways, I guess. So there's a long answer to your very generous question. Thank you, Divine Petulance. Appreciate it. All right. So you talked about quotas. Yeah.
isn't true.
Sorry, let me back up a little bit. No, that was way too far back. Hold on. Okay.
Hire this many diverse candidates, or and then we get into the issues of, well, but then you're not hiring the most qualified candidates, which isn't true.
How do you know? I mean, if you have a front filter for opportunity on the basis of race or gender, that's not to say that the people that make it through that filter aren't qualified. But is it possible that there are more qualified people that you are denying that opportunity to? How would you know?
It's just having access for hiring abilities for people to be in, me speaking as a lawyer at a law firm, in
Is this your legal opinion?
a law firm, and law already, the people that work at law firms are already not very diverse.
Could you quantify that? Define diverse. Her and so many other DEI consultants in the past, I would love to ask, please describe for me a non-diverse job applicant.
It's a very homogenous group of people.
In what way?
Both at large law firms, which are seeing the attack, or a place where I work, which is a small law firm.
Okay, I know what she's talking about, and you know what she's talking about. Why isn't she telling us what she's talking about? Why is she hesitant? Why is she leaving out what she means? What do you mean homogenous? In what way?
Of only 12 people.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a disservice not only to people that want access to become a lawyer.
You're effectively saying that certain people should be denied equal access to becoming a lawyer because they fall into some mysterious demographic that you think is homogenous. And you're speaking as a lawyer. Are you listening to the words that are coming out of your mouth?
I'm a first-generation lawyer.
I don't care. That means nothing. It is irrelevant. I'm a zero-generation lawyer. I'm lower even than you. I'm more marginalized than you are.
I'm proud to be that, but I know that, I have also had enough privilege in my upbringing to get me to where I am today.
So everything that you are is thus invalidated by your privilege? I mean, why are you making apologies unless there's something to apologize for?
And so there's not that access for everybody to have an opportunity to become a lawyer. And
well, there's certainly a lot less opportunity if you're going to be denying people even the possibility on the basis of your assessment of their homogeneity. Right? Privileged girl who's apologizing for her advancement in the law industry.
then that trickles down into the services that we provide for our clients.
Oh, no, I believe it. I believe that if your law firm looks first and foremost at how they assess you as being underprivileged or marginalized before they take a look at your CV, I'm sure that does trickle down into the services provided by your firm in small and large ways. Do you also assess the value of your clients on the same basis, I wonder?
Because their clients are not only one type of person. There's
You're right, but do you think of those clients that fall into that same homogenous category as less deserving of your services?
clients that need all types of help, and there are all types of people that need that help.
But as far as opportunities for becoming a lawyer, we can safely discriminate in those.
And we don't have, enough of a diverse representation within the lawyer field to.
Oh, how do you solve for that problem? Okay, I love this lady because she is being as honest as she can and just setting up so many trapdoors.
I think, serve everybody adequately.
Okay. I love it. I love it. She did the lawyerly thing. She couched her language. She said enough to get you wondering what's going on without getting too specific. That could, set her. Because she knows. She knows that if she actually said the truth of what it is that she means, it would look bad. It would demonstrably look bad and sound bad. And may also implicate something untoward going on at her own law firm or at law firms that she's otherwise involved in. Always pay attention as much as to what is said as is what is not said.
Panel, please speak up. Yeah, my mic went up. There it is. Are you there?
Okay, here we go. So
No.
for me, it's
Oh, mic's not on.
It's not on.
or I can just try this one. It's
There
There you go.
go.
Just
It's all
pass
good.
the
It's all
mic.
good.
Good
There
God.
we are.
Thank you. So for me, I don't directly see it in my work.
You don't directly see misinformation of DEI in your work, okay?
Okay.
But what it is that, all state court judges in Ohio are elected.
Okay.
And so I have run countywide 4 times now.
Oh, you're a judge? Oh.
And to see just how much our electorate doesn't know about our government, particularly my branch of government.
Admittedly, I don't know who our speaker is. She says she's ran 4 times. I don't know if she ever won. I have no idea.
Is astonishing.
The electorate not having intricate knowledge of how the government works is not astonishing. In fact, it's probably one of the least astonishing things you could have said about the electorate. But, okay.
So it started there. And then
What?
once social
What
media came about, the misinformation on there is just rampant.
Once social media came about, you mean like 2003? 2001? What? Such as?
And so what I did to combat that is I would just see someone have something wrong, and then I would pick up my phone and make a video about it. So
She and I are kindred spirits.
my neighbors were having an argument because one neighbor was parked in front of the other's house.
I cannot tell you how excited I am to find out where this story goes. I literally lack the vocabulary to describe my excitement.
And so I made a video about, can someone park in front of your house? The answer is yes, so long
You're like a legal Karen.
as they're not blocking your driveway. And I know there's been a agenda item in your HOA about that too, probably. But
Oh, yeah. My HOA.
and all the way to executive orders, because, when certain things that President Trump did, whether you agreed with them or you didn't agree with them, certain images in the media made people think that it was permanent.
Like what?
Some people were freaking out like it was, another version of the 10 Commandments just etched in stone.
You mean like, I don't know, DACA? You mean like an executive order that has sustained itself despite attempts to take it out? It's not impossible. We have precedent for the president.
And so I made a video to say that is not what an executive order is.
You're correct. No executive order is inherently permanent. It is, or it should be, for what it is, only as long-lived as the executive currently in place. It should be rescinded by an executive, regardless of who started it, just like Trump did with a particular executive order that people lament on the DEI side because it mentioned affirmative action. even though affirmative action has now been ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, so it made that executive order inherently defunct. But Trump nixing it, which he had every ability to do, is seen as an affront to fairness and justice and equality and so on, and civil rights. But you're correct. Executive orders are not written in stone. So I'm glad you educated people on that.
Because I think with the social media makes the disinformation like that much scarier.
I agree. It can.
Because it can spread so quickly. And then, you know, depending on where children are going to school, they may or may not be learning things to combat what they see.
Okay. No specific examples of what you're talking about there.
Absolutely. Social
Absolutely what?
media is just rapid, and
Social media is rapid. Wow. Assassin of the Gray, holy cats! Thank you so much. Scribelight, who the heck is that guy talking with Scribe's voice? What have you done with Scribe? And Dogcat Fox, tell me! Well, you see, this is just an elaborate Sora 2 construct based on my avatar. Yeah, I'm wearing a mocap suit right now, and this is just a very complex animation. And Dogcat Fox? Well, Dogcat Fox is right here. And he'd like to say hello. Wowie, wow, wow. See? He's very happy. He's very happy to say hello. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Wowie, wow, wow. Yeah, I know. Just anyway, thank you, Assassin of the Gray, very much. Oh, you know what I forgot to do is I really need to make like a checklist before every stream. Hey, you know, when you go live, turn on the comments. That'd be a smart thing to do. That's a good trick, turning on the comments. Let's see, we want tall and let's say medium. Sure. There we go. It covers up the video a little bit. But that, you know, that kind of helps out with risks of content matching, I think, a little bit. There you go. So thank you, Assassin of the Gray.
really don't know what's factual or not these days.
Okay, well, this is why you need to get corroboration on things, right? Or await corroboration from official sources and not just take everything at first blush. I am not innocent of, you know, knee-jerk reactions to things I see online sometimes. I have been guilty of retweeting something that turned out to be not true or misinterpreted or something. I've become far more wary of retweeting news alerts or pictures of suspects or something unless or until I get some kind of corroboration. But I'm not perfect. I try to do better. I try not to add on to situations. I know I don't have like some kind of zillion follower following on Twitter or whatever, but same time, you know, every little bit helps. So yes, it is possible. What are you guys talking about? Specifically, an example. What is a piece of misinformation surrounding DEI?
More. And so that kind of leads into a question.
That you still haven't let everybody answer the first question.
But Dr. Liveman,
Yes.
unless you go to Laurel lays down the law.
Yes.
Social media.
Laurel lays down the law. Okay, is this who this is? Okay, so our speaker there, now that she's told us, her name is Laurel Beatty Blunt. I'm not quite sure what her professional experience is. Let me see if I can. Okay, she's a judge with the Ohio 10th District Court. Okay, so she is a judge. Court of Appeals, pardon me. Judge with the Ohio 10th District Court of Appeals. Dedicated career to increasing access to justice. Okay, so she is a sitting judge. From 2019 to the present, she's on the 10th District Court of Appeals of Ohio. Okay. Let's see. Okay, she has a Doctor of Law from Vanderbilt University and a Bachelor of Arts from Spelman College. Okay. I had no idea. Like I say, if they introduced the speakers at the top of this, I skipped over it. So, all right. So you're a judge.
Yes.
All of
I
that
saw
true.
the
It's all
in the
true.
car park in front of your house video.
I can't blame her for, plugging her own wares, as it were. So, okay, she has the opportunity.
And so that leads me to another question
Which you didn't let everybody else on the panel answer the second question.
around what role do social media, what role do we play in trying to get out the factual information?
You need to tell us some example of misinformation that you are combating. Right? The only one we've heard so far is our first speaker on the end here, this lady who's a lawyer, who said that, quotas and unfair things and hiring people not on the basis of their qualifications, it's obviously untrue. That's the only piece of quote-unquote misinformation we've had presented to us so far. Or the lady down at the end that was trying to say something about shooting suspects with mental health issues is misinformation or something.
Correct information other than what Laurel has suggested that she does on her page.
Yeah, the legal advice of, can someone park their car in front of my house?
So there's this annual study
Okay.
that that asks people, which institutions do you trust?
Uh-huh.
And as you would guess, faith in institutions, media, government, business, etc., continues to be at an all-time low and just
and why is that?
gets worse and worse every year.
Yeah.
The institution in which people have the most trust are actually nonprofits.
Yeah. And do you think that their trust is not possibly misplaced?
And in our organization and across the country, nonprofits take that trust very seriously. Well,
I'm sure they do. And there are lots of nonprofits out there which are completely legit, above board, and beyond reproach in their record and their history and so on. Does that mean that nonprofits are inherently without suspicion or should not be questioned or audited? Assassin the Gray again, thank you so much. Good golly. I have an opportunity to vote a bunch of Democrat judges, activists, each and every one of them. But I repeat myself, off the bench on election day, and boy howdy am I going to enjoy it. Yeah, this is one of those sort of like, it feels like a lame duck, sort of election, after the presidential election, but before the midterms and so on. So it's like, yeah, but there are a lot of consequential things taking place, like, mayoral races and governor races and so on. So, and for those states that actually elect judges, best of luck in getting what you want. But yes, do remember, go vote. I voted. Even if it's, relatively minor things, but still. But thank you, Assassin the Great. Anyway, so yes, people trust nonprofits because there's something that seems reflexively altruistic and benevolent about the concept of an organization working for not a profit. Except you really need to look into nonprofits, because simply saying you're a nonprofit doesn't mean somebody's not making a buck off of it. And maybe not for any particular return in kind. So a general sense of trust for nonprofits does not indemnify nonprofits from examination or criticism.
Whether it's built in an agency client perspective or as a kind of a public intellectual place to look for facts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my answer. We have to look to the institutions and the people that we know we can trust.
No. You don't know you can trust them. The survey said, who do you trust more? Right? And having faith in nonprofits does not make nonprofits faithful as a rule. Now you're spreading some misinformation.
And turn to them uniquely now, even as that's gotten almost counterintuitive.
Okay, so again, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm assuming he's involved with a nonprofit. So because you're attached to a nonprofit, you are beyond reproach as compared to media and government and so on. Do you have any recommendations of what nonprofits we need to be looking towards, or looking to for wisdom and insight into how the world should work?
In our society, where we're told no, that all of that is incorrect.
Uh-huh.
And that is difficult. We have to encourage a level of scrupulousness.
Except when it comes to nonprofits.
And a lot of the folks that hold positions that were once places to be trusted, for example,
nonprofits,
the CDC.
The CDC. Oh, yeah. Right. The CDC was a place we should place our trust in until that evil Kennedy got into there, right?
We can't trust what's coming out of there right now.
And we could totally trust what was coming out of there before. Really?
That's a challenge that we...
I'll tell you what. I didn't trust anything that was coming out of the CDC for the last 7 years. How's about that? Make you feel better?
We have to navigate. It's why we think it's one of the existential crises that we face, the amount of disinformation that is out there. And this is implied in what you were saying, the advent of artificial intelligence in the ability to make a fake video and have it seem awfully realistic. And
oh my God, do you have an example of such a thing that has anything to do with D.E.I?
Sound awfully real.
Cheap fakes? Are you talking about cheap fakes?
To me, that's a terrifying prospect.
I agree. What does that got to do with the current subject? What does that got to do with D.E.I?
It's very hard to do the work of a health and human services organization where
you're a health and human services organization.
People need to have information to make decisions about taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
When there's so much false information that
like what?
It's out there.
Like what? I'm going to have an aneurysm on live TV here. How is it that every single one of these panelists seem to come this close to telling us something that they've encountered in the course of their work that was an explicit example of what the problem is, and yet and they stop. It's just guys, you know AI is a real big risk against misinformation. Yeah, it sure is. You have an example? No, not one I want to talk about. Not one that could be at point on this subject, because why bother giving you an active example? But by the way, nonprofits are, never question a nonprofit. There's no reason to. People trust them. People trust them.
Yeah, the the issue that I have with a lot of this kind of DEI quote unquote backlash is it's erasing entire communities.
DEI backlash is erasing communities. Dare I ask how?
They're because of this idea that, you know, DEI, that, you know, where they're saying that DEI is now not okay within universities or within certain fields.
No, DEI hasn't been okay by law since 1964 in universities. As DEI has been practiced, affirmative action just being another form of DEI. The Supreme Court has said so. And most people who understood what affirmative action was doing knew that there was a clock on it. And Title VI, I know, I'm a broken record on this. This has been around since 1964. Okay? It prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. So if you're receiving a federal grant, if you have a federal contract, if in any way, shape, or form you're receiving taxpayer money as an organization, you fall under this restriction. And you also fall under the consequential risks of violating this restriction. And that is your federal funding gets yanked. Should get yanked. That's not something new. Donald Trump didn't just manifest that out of the ether. And DEI has been tempting fate with that the entire time. But okay, yeah, this just happened. This backlash is new and it's completely misinformed.
Entire communities. They're because of this idea that, you know, DEI, that, you know, where they're saying that DEI is now not okay within universities or within certain fields. At Equality Ohio, we're getting calls from entities that have worked with us for many, many years saying, well, we're no longer going to work with you because you are a political organization or you are, because you serve LGBTQ communities, that's inherently political.
Well, it is inherently political. I'd love to hear specifically what organization called you and said, we're not going to work with you anymore because you're inherently political, because the LGBTQ whatever is a political movement. It's always been a political movement. It's been a political movement for equal rights under law. You know, specifically in marriage and insurance and things. And there is plenty of reasonable demands that the LGB community have made over time. But it's gone beyond that. It's sort of like third wave feminism. It's like under law, for all intents and purposes, things are about as equal as you could get. But that's not enough. We have to keep making money. We have to keep making an entire demographic victims of a system that has, for all intents and purposes, reached, on paper, equality. Society takes longer to move than the written word. But now it's become a political movement, more so, but beyond that, an ideological movement of trying to change people's perceptions of reality to fit a very disturbing mindset. Now, this speaker's organization might have nothing to do with that, but for him to deny that any organization labeling themselves as either pushing the agenda of or associated with LGBTQIA+, etc., is not a political organization, or it is unreasonable to see such organizations as political, he's denying reality.
Well, me raising my son with my husband, I don't see that as political. That's
okay. like I just said, your individual circumstance might be completely separate. But you cannot deny that LGBTQIA+, as a phrase, as a concept, as an institution, is inherently a political movement, as well as an ideological one, if those two things can't be, unconjoined from one another.
Just me being me. And the fact that we're politicizing identity now.
The fact that we're politicizing identity now. What do you mean now? Like in the last decade or more? Because I have some videos from 9 years ago. What do you mean now?
I think it's very dangerous. And
I do too. I do too. We're like this. So how do we stop politicizing identity? How do we do that?
It's leading to a lot of this misinformation and this disinformation.
Like what? Like what?
You're talking about, because now.
No. A lot of the disinformation they're talking about, they haven't talked about any. They haven't talked about any disinformation. They have alluded to possibilities in the most amorphous and abstract way. No. What are you talking about?
There's just an inherent, again, erasure of people and a disconnection.
Who is being erased? What do you mean by erasure? Always I want to be with you and make believe with you and live in harmony, harmony, I think that was an erasure song. If I'm wrong about that, pardon my autistic jukebox.
From people in a way that I think, again, is really dangerous, and it's causing us to attack trans individuals.
What are you talking about? Why? It shouldn't amaze me, but it always amazes me. It is a rare day that I ever do a video or a stream or an examination of the same person or the same organization on a regular basis. It does happen. I mean, I'm not saying it never happens. I could name a couple, like I've looked at Hive Diversity several times, Bridge, and so on. So it does happen. I'll look at a particular organization to see what they're up to. And yet, 90% of the time on my channel, I am looking at panel discussions or promotional videos or whatever else from individuals I have never previously seen before. Right? I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know their background, etc. And yet, it always astonishes me just how consistently, when it comes to DEI advocates and proponents, how couched their language is, how generalized, how non-specific they get when it comes to describing either what they do or how they justify what they do. And in all the prevarications, maybe I'm a little tunnel vision. Maybe this is common in any particular instance. I mean, maybe if I was watching a consistent diet of panel discussions on motorcycle maintenance or something, that they would be just as non-specific, or any other kind of academic pursuit, let's say. Maybe. But I don't know. This is just, it's both fascinating and frustrating. So do you have an example of what you're talking about? How the backlash to DEI is leading to the erasure of whole communities and attacks on trans people.
And immigrants in ways that we've never.
Whoa. Stop. Let me back up a little bit. I cut them off, so let's try that again.
There's just an inherent, again, erasure of people and a disconnection from people in a way that I think, again, is really dangerous, and it's causing us to attack trans individuals and immigrants in ways that we've never seen before.
Such as?
All because of this idea that's really been, this idea of DEI that's really been, from my perspective, been seriously distorted.
In what way? In what way has DEI been distorted? What is, from your perspective, the correct interpretation of DEI? And what is the incorrect distortion? Compare and contrast. Specifically, what are you talking about? And give us an example, or two, or three, or preferably seven. But, you know.
Because if you think about it, DEI should not be illegal.
I'll grant you that. And I've said this multiple times. Focusing on that phrase and the words that make up that phrase, in my mind, is a mistake on the part of the president, the executive orders, and a lot of state governments in trying to write new legislation. I think that the path of least resistance and least controversy or confusion is simply to state that compliance to established federal civil rights laws will be enforced. And if you declare yourself an organization that promotes DEI, then that is a red flag. It is not a condemnation in and of itself, because the devil is certainly in the details. Simply using that language in your promotional materials does not mean you've committed a crime or committed a violation of federal law. Organizations need to be audited for compliance, and DEI declarations is a red flag that deserves inquiry. So I agree with you on that in sentiment, but what I want to hear from you is, what is the distortion? Okay? What is specifically the distortion? Because DEI and its execution, in most cases, does tempt fate with established law, based on its goals and based on its mechanisms. And for you to deny that as a legitimate concern is right up there with denying that an organization declaring itself LGBTQ plus supporting or whatever else can't reasonably be seen as possibly a political organization. That's you living in denial.
Discrimination should be illegal, and we have lots of lawyers who can talk about this better than I.
No, they can't. No lawyer on the panel is going to describe what DEI actually does and what legal risks it imparts upon organizations that use it.
We have lots of written law that explains how not to discriminate and how you should not discriminate in our society.
Yeah. You want to talk about those laws? And do you want to put them up against DEI policies? Do you want to put established laws up against what the speaker on the opposite end of the row here was talking about when it came to homogeneity and non-diversity at her law firm, and what that implies about what happens at her law firm or other law firms to try to solve for that problem, and how that matches up against, say, Title VII? Maybe?
Creating opportunity for folks is not discrimination.
Okay. DEI isn't about creating opportunities. It's about denying opportunities to whole swaths of the population and then only letting in the kinds of people you want. It is, oftentimes, no different than a whites-only sign in a storefront in Alabama in the 1950s. There is mechanically no difference between that and most DEI initiatives in companies and organizations. It's two things that are exactly the same, but just slightly different in their expression.
So I think that's really where we need to start whenever we hear messages around this new what I call propaganda.
But this panel discussion is propaganda. All right? It's information meant to influence people. I understand that propaganda as a term is almost inherently seen now as a pejorative, like it's something inherently sinister. It's not. It's up to interpretation just like everything else. Everything is propaganda. If I'm communicating an idea to you, if I'm trying to persuade you towards something through my written word or my spoken word or whatever, that's propaganda. An advertisement for toothpaste is propaganda. And yet people use this word as though to somehow separate what they're doing from something that is morally suspect. Right? Inherently morally suspect. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't assess propaganda on its merits like anything else. But it's weird how language works. Propaganda. Does that mean inherently false? No. Does it mean that it's attempting to persuade you? Yes. Could it be persuading you towards something that's absolutely true and beneficial? Sure. Or not. It's all about context. But anyway, that's just a little tangent.
That's coming out is really thinking through, well, what really is policy? What is actual? What is the actual law? As opposed to what is the propaganda that somebody's trying to sell me, or that someone that is trying to be put out here.
Yes. What is the actual law? What does Title VI say? What does Title VII say? And is it possible? Oh, I know it's a crazy idea. Is it possible that D.E.I. as an industry is putting out a lot of propaganda that may not actually align with established law? Or that their claims of not violating the law or not tempting fate could be not correct? And you allow for the possibility that you could be wrong.
About how we're distorting how we think about real people. And I would say this last thing that I think to your question about how we combat this, I think we have to get back to this idea of our shared humanity.
Unless you're not diverse, and then you're lesser on the totem pole.
And having these conversations about or at Equality, how we're trying to put out there more images and messages around specifically transgender people, talking about these people are part of your community. These are.
I see you have a very focused agenda. Okay.
This is your daughter, your mother, your sister.
Are you assuming their gender or their chosen gender?
Your
son, your father. Do you want to put some men in there?
Your educator,
your son, your father, your brother,
your mechanic,
your father, your son, your brother,
your hairdresser. These.
Notice how he's only concerned with going one direction. It's okay. It's all right.
There are people that are part of our lives, and they should not be demonized or termed terrorists.
I'll tell you what. I only term people terrorists who actually terrorize people. Okay. But they're you again, you seem to be living in a world where you're denying reality. You're denying patterns and evidence of things. Oh, LGBTQ+, that's not inherently political. No. DEI is obviously not propaganda or could never produce propaganda against established law. No. There's no subculture movement in the trans community, and I use that in quotation marks because that doesn't implicate everybody, but there is something going on there in certain subsections of people who have declared themselves to be trans and then are taking violent actions. I don't know if you've seen a pattern recently. And if you have, I got a feeling you've put blinders onto it because you don't want to admit the possibility that somehow being in a particular demographic does not then anoint you as inherently without sin or something. right? I mean, our speaker seems to have this problem, and especially and the guy next to him with the nonprofits. It's like, oh, well, I run a nonprofit. Obviously, there's nothing to question about my nonprofit because people trust us. Well, I'm in this demographic. Therefore, I'm beyond reproach. I couldn't possibly do a bad thing because I'm in this demographic. When being in a demographic says nothing about your character. We have to stop politicizing identity. Oh, and by the way, if you're trans, it's bad to, criticize someone who happens to be trans for the actions that they take or the rhetoric that they put out there? I don't know. Susano Al-Rashard, the OG Department of War shows were great on this subject matter. Archives are on YouTube if anyone cares listening. What subject? Almost 40 years of studying propaganda, by the way. Do wish we taught in K through. Right, yeah. The functions and how propaganda works and, again, trying to make aware the populace to be aware of what they're being told and be able to assess it in a critical way. Encouraging critical thinking. There's good propaganda, there's bad propaganda, there's deceptive propaganda, there's completely mundane propaganda. It all depends. It's all just messaging. When somebody tells you something is true, ask for a second opinion. It shouldn't be that tough, right? Get some other information. If it's something important enough to you to move or make a decision on in life, ask some questions. And not just, I'm just asking questions. No, just to verify. It was an old Russian proverb that Reagan reiterated, trust but verify. So, Scribe is very correct on this. We need to teach propaganda proper at one point, not so much as right. Exactly facts. Exactly facts. Let's see. Peter, attempt to coin a new word or phrase. Yeah. No, unfortunately, no bingo card for this. This was just oh my gosh, I've been going an hour and a half now. I should probably think about bed soon. We'll give it another couple of minutes. We're almost at the halfway point of the whole spiel here, so we'll see if we go back to the moderator and she asks an interesting question, we'll give it a little bit. If she asks a completely unrelated question or starts asking them about their personal lives or something, we'll just cut it off. Simply because
they believe in this idea, opportunity for all, that now has been turned into this terrible thing.
No. It was never about opportunity for all. It's always been a terrible thing. You guys have convinced yourself it's opportunity for all, but it's inherently not. As your own compatriot on the panel said when she talked about how law firms aren't very diverse. Right? They're too homogenous.
So I just want us, when you start to see this propaganda dehumanize people.
Okay. If someone goes into, say, a religious institution and shoots up a bunch of people, I'm going to demonize that person. If I see a pattern of incidents where people are doing harm to other people that all have a similar set of rhetoric, or take part in a similar set of actions, or involved in similar organizations, I might start to draw conclusions or suspicions about those things, not because I'm a Looney Tune, not because I'm an inherently discriminatory person, but because I notice things. I'm a pattern-seeking mammal. It's kind of what we do. Does that indict everybody who happens to fall within that category? No. But if you see something happen enough times, you might be forgiven for being suspicious. So if you want to just plug your ears and cover your eyes and pretend that everything's fine and there's nothing worth questioning, that's your choice. But don't demonize other people for noticing patterns.
That's when I think you should start taking a pause and rethinking the narrative.
Yeah, that deserves a clap.
That deserves the clap. Nothing turned off, so I don't have the clapper.
And
Yeah, listen to all that applause.
it's all about humanity and making sure that we
No, it's
stay
not.
focused on humanity.
Okay, what about the humanity of non-diverse people? What about not whittling people down to their skin color and then rejecting them for opportunities in business and employment? What about that kind of humanity?
Shearston, to bring you into this conversation, how does the misinformation around disability rights or
Okay, I'm done. I'm done. The disability thing is a complete dodge. It's got nothing to do with nothing. It is irrelevant to what's the true concern should be and what the subject should be talked about when it comes to the status of DEI, how it works, why it's being pushed back against. They can't even be honest about that. If you want me to take you seriously when it comes to things like this, you have to at least, in an honest way, entertain the opposition fairly. Even if you're completely against it, even if you completely disagree, you have to at least bring up, okay, what is the opposition saying is wrong with this? And then what is my answer to that? What is my counterpoint? What is my gotcha moment to show that they're wrong? And if you're acting in good faith and bringing up somebody else's opposition, even if I disagree with your counterpoint, I'll at least give you credit for being honest about what the problem is or where the conflict lies, let's say. But they can't even do that. They can't even be honest about what the opposition is saying or whether or not they have a point. And B, they can't even be honest about what they think or what they're talking about. They have to keep using abstracts or stopping short of being specific. Susano Ella Richard, focused on narratives at the expense of reality. Yeah, just moving forward and just believing I'm doing the right thing. Everything I do is anointed. Everything I do is pure. Everything I do is beyond reproach. Anybody who says otherwise is obviously misconstruing things or misinformation or, being demonizing people unfairly. I mean, I may be promoting inherently discriminatory hiring practices, but it's wrong to demonize trans people. It's very hard to argue with that kind of logic. But Dom O'Leary, always get a second opinion and question everything. Dom, I'm going to ask somebody else about that first. I'm going to get a second opinion on that. I don't believe you. I don't believe I should interrogate things people say. No. I know what you're doing. That's propaganda. Anyway, everybody, for what it is, that's the show. Programming note. Yeah, even though I'm doing this today, there's another stream tomorrow, Monday. It's going to be DEI Death Watch. And boy, oh boy, if you thought this was exciting listening to some DEI news or stuff, tomorrow will be even better. I've got news from making diversity a business priority because fewer people think it should be. I've got stories about Disney still trying to push forward DEI, even though they've been caught out changing their websites and stuff. Even having whole events and live streams based around DEI. I've got DEI in Python. And I'm not talking about the snake. I'm talking about Python, the programming language. The programming language, DEI conflicts in Python, what? Yes, we'll all talk about that tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, if you haven't, at least in America, I don't know how it goes elsewhere, if you haven't already set your clock back an hour, do so now. Otherwise, you're going to have a very funky time tomorrow when it comes to going to work or getting started for other things. Yeah, it was supposed to happen last night. If you didn't do it last night, do it now. Set your clocks back 1 hour so you can be in compliance with the revised sun. I keep hearing they threaten to get rid of daylight savings time. Hasn't happened yet. Of course, I've been hearing about that for years. So anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or, and I don't even think I mentioned it because I forgot. as I'm wont to do. At the top of the chat box, guys, there's a link to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society donation page. Please, please, if you haven't already, please take a look at that. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. Elsewise, everybody, hope you have a good remainder of your Sunday night, wherever you are, or welcome to Monday morning. I hope you have a good Monday. Hope you have a good week ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, both from me and from Dog Cat Fox. We both wish you well this evening. Don't we, Dog Cat Fox? Don't we?
Wowie wow wow.
That's right, we do. And I didn't put the volume up. Here, let's try that again.
Wowie wow wow.
There we go. When I put the volume up, it sounds like it's really there, in the same room with you. Everyone, I'll see you on the next one.